So hello everyone, welcome to Witch and Womb's weekly interview called Witches in the World, where we interview, highlight, and honor amazing women doing amazing things throughout our world. And we end each interview with a meditation, a ritual, a sacred spell, or a prayer to close our circle and integrate the information. So today, I have the great pleasure of speaking with Susanne Venaas, a teacher, a healer, and a guide, as well as the creator of SoulSense and the co-creator of this amazing women's sisterhood called Mystic Sisters out of Alberta, Canada. She offers really the most incredible in-person and long-distance energy healings. I've personally experienced them. They're incredible, which is why I'm so excited to interview her today. And she also offers online workshops and moon circles to help her clients navigate through life with a greater sense of self and a greater sense of understanding. So, welcome, Susanne. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Alex. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about today.
I am really excited too. And like I said before, I've experienced your healing firsthand. That's right. And it was during a time of my life where I was dealing with a lot of PTSD from a trip to Africa that happened 5 years prior. So we're talking about many years of PTSD. And it was just so incredible for me to experience your healing, because it was only after I think like 1 or 2 sessions that I felt like years of trauma had lifted off of my essence and my being, which is just incredible.
Yeah, it was incredible. Your reaction was like, oh, I'm so excited that I was able to help shift that for you in the way that I do. And sometimes I doubt myself in my abilities, so it was really beautiful confirmation, especially at that time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's why I'm just so excited to, that's what Witches in the World is for me, is I really want people to see this amazing magic that's happening all around the world. And I consider you literally one of the top healers in my life, honestly. And so I'm just so excited to be here today. So that kind of brings me to what my first question is about your healing journey. So how did you get into healing? Has it been something you've always done, or did it happen upon you? Tell us a little bit about that.
People ask me this all the time. My clients ask me this all the time. And I'm like, it's been happening my entire life, but my awareness of it has only happened within the last couple of years. So when I think back to all of my physical symptoms I was having and seeing and experiences as a child, I've been processing and healing others, but without the capacity to understand how to ground myself, what I was really doing, how to release that energy. And it would actually physically make me ill. As a small child, I've had tummy issues since the time I was 4 or 5 years old, and they carried on my whole adult life. And so when you ask how did it come about, I had to go through my own intense healing just a couple of years ago. And I think it was my body was finally like, you know what? You are not listening. You're not paying attention to any of these bloody signs. So we're going to incapacitate you to the point where you have no option but to sit here and heal yourself from the inside and figure out how you're going to navigate forward.
Ugh, that always happens, right? The body always ends up saying rest, lay down, listen. It's so annoying, but it's such a miracle too.
It really was. I was teaching, I've been teaching for 13 years, I think, 2005. And I had gone back after my daughter was 14 months old, and I was teaching 70% of the time. So I had a little bit of time, and I just never felt right going back after after I had her, but I didn't know what I was supposed to do. And I had explored different things. And a couple of years ago, I got so ill that I was having physical pains, these attacks, I call them, that felt like upper abdominal that would last 2 to 4 hours every single day. I was lethargic. I lost weight. I was ashen, yellow. My eyes would get jaundiced. And I had to take the time off of work. And this was from someone who was working out 5 days a week, doing Olympic weightlifting, going to
I forgot that you did that. I forgot. You're a superwoman.
Yeah, so, you know, I was all of this stuff, and then I could do nothing, and I was sleeping like 16 hours a day. I could barely even mother my own daughter, and I was like, what the hell? And of course, all the tests, you're fine. I'm like, come on, I'm not fine. So then I started seeking alternative care, and every practitioner, I think, that I worked with would say, you know what, like, you've got to heal yourself, but the work that we do in your, like, whatever capacity, this is what you are meant to be doing. And so it kept getting reaffirmed with each person. And then I was like, okay, then I need to go inside and do the work to navigate through this and do the learning as well. So
when these healers told you that this is like your calling and this is part of you know, your purpose in life, was that like totally out of left field for you? Like, were you aware of this whole world?
No, it wasn't out of this world. Like, I talk now very openly. When I was a child, my sister and I used to see, I'm going to assume that they were guides, and there's 7 years between us, and so her room became mine, and in the doorway there was always a couple, and there was a tall man on the left. It wasn't my parents, it was their silhouette, and a woman on the right. She was shorter and she had hair down to her bum, and they would stand in the doorway. We never talked about it until I was in my 20s. She was in her 30s, but I would see them all the time.
Wow.
Awareness was there from a very young. When I was a teenager, I kind of shut it out, and then the things like anxiety, depression manifested. But I honestly now truly believe that I had been picking up on people's energies for so long that some of their anxieties were becoming my own. And I didn't have that awareness or understanding. So as they went through and these people would tell me this, I went, well, you know, I remember when I was a kid, and I remember, you know, things make sense. And so it was like peeling off all the layers piece by piece by piece, you know, like I even remember there was at one point when I read, so we met with doing Lisa Lister's She Power Coven. When I read the book Witch, I was like, my grade 4, I remember my silhouette was on, like, all of our silhouettes, and we were in partners, and my friend traced my face, and it was up for half the year on the perimeter of our classroom in grade 4. And I would look at it, I'm like, I'm a witch. Look at me, I'm a witch. Like, all I saw was pointy chin, pointy nose, witch.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing. Yeah. So it was like basically a remembering for you of what you are.
A remembering, yeah, absolutely. And uncovering and like peeling back all the layers and the remembering, for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So then how do you go from, all right, I'm healing myself, I'm healing my body, I need to not be sleeping 16 hours, I need to, you know, move whatever is in my space out. How do you go from that place of being very sick to now being this incredible, like, amazing healer?
I think I don't know. Like, when you say that, I'm like, I don't know that I'm that incredible. I just feel like just a regular Joe, Jill, maybe. But I don't know, like, it was really taking the time to become, I always had a good self-awareness, but dropping deeper into that self-awareness and recognizing, instead of pushing down, which we all go through a phase of time where we push down what isn't serving us, but really sitting with it and figuring out how to navigate through. And so, you know, I'm still healing. We all are. We're all in the process. And there's always things that come up for us to surface. But I feel like my awareness of it is stronger, and my ability to navigate through it is maybe with more grace or with more humbleness or with more ease, and kind of a combination, whereas I was so resistant to actually going through that before.
Awesome.
I don't know.
So it kind of sounds like your ability to accept this part of yourself, this healing part, this witchy part of yourself, is in direct correlation to you healing your body at the same time. Is that kind of...
They were happening simultaneously, and one would shift the other in its capacity, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
They were happening kind of, simultaneously. And as I stepped into that, more healing would happen. And then as I stepped into, accepting and honoring this part of myself, the abilities and became more apparent or stronger, or maybe I stepped into it and I actually owned it instead of dismissing it.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because you're really one of my personal examples of somebody who has stepped into their power in such a beautiful, graceful, and embodied way that I really look to you just personally as like, wow, this is a woman who's like, this is my gift in the world and I'm moving into this and stepping into it. And like the power that comes from it. That's why I think that you're so powerful, because I see this correlation, this like, it looks like a funnel to me that you just like really step into yourself. And then that's where like that healing magic comes from. So I admire that so much about you.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's true. It's true. So how do you go from healing yourself to healing others? Did you start like playing with that with your family, or how did that happen for you?
Well, it was one of my, now, like, I recognize her as a friend, a sister of this time, of many lifetimes past, basically saw in me at my weakest point and acknowledged it and kind of put me in a place where I could find the resources and tools to start shifting that awareness. And it was taking through her yoga teacher training that kind of sparked that, okay, from there, I'm going to do my meditation teacher training. Okay, now I'm going to go and do my Reiki Masters. Okay, now I'm going to do this online course that supports this. Okay, now I read this book, which, and what? I'm going to sign up with Lisa Lister. And so I don't like to say that I heal other people. I think I'm like a tool to help them heal themselves, if that makes the most sense.
Totally. I mean, even as like a psychic, like it's the same sort of thing. Like I'm not really reading what's not in somebody's space. I'm just sort of validating what they already know. That's how I look at it,
For sure.
And so
you have your own skills and tool set that you use to help others get there on their own. And so that's what I like to, like, I think those that have these type of gifts that are the most respected are those that acknowledge that we're just there to facilitate for others. And It's not us actually doing, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So would you say that your healing is Reiki, or do you have like your own brand of it?
No, I like to call it energy healing. Like I don't know, like I have my Reiki Masters, but I don't use the symbols. I don't use, like I use pieces that I gather in every little bit. And I think I've amalgamated it into my own thing. And I think that's what most people do when they have some tools and they amalgamate it into their own. Like I really, like I said this morning, I was telling you before this that I pulled a card on like, how do I best share what is my magic, if we want to call it that, right? And the tarot card that I pulled was the Magician. And the Magician really takes the physical, the spiritual, the emotional, and the mental body and calls in all the elements and uses the cosmos and uses the earth and alchemizes. And I feel like that's my gift, is that I alchemize both for myself and for others, and really help them navigate through the light and the shadow, and they're both there.
Yeah, so, absolutely. That's how I experienced it. I mean, it felt like there was this like wall around me that I just couldn't bust through, which is just very typical of PTSD, right? Like it's very limiting. And I don't know how you experience your magic, but like the way that I experienced was it just like easily dissolved. And it came from a place of so much compassion and love and nurturing energy, which I didn't even realize is what I really needed to dissolve that. And it was so beautiful how you did that, because I've worked with other healers and it's a little bit more masculine, a little bit more effort, more force. Like that's how I experience it. And with yours, I just experience it like, I don't know, it's just gentle and easy and light and comforting.
Well, that's, if I can tell one instance of like when I So when I connect from a distance, information comes to me differently than when I'm in person. And sometimes it's a lot of vision. Sometimes it's very visceral in my body. I feel things are very emotional. And I do remember at one part, I said, I saw you lying in your bed. And I do remember this. And I just went over to you and like kind of scooped you up and held you in my arms because that's what I felt that you needed. And so I don't know, when I connect, it's from my heart, and it's so I hope there's compassion there, like that's what I try to offer in a very, in this space, but I'm also very practical and, I don't know, but it's from a place of love and compassion for sure.
Yeah. So that kind of brings me to my next question of, what kind of clients do you work with, and like what are they giving you feedback wise on how their experience? Because I know like you've told me a couple stories about like in Mexico and like different things, like just crazy amazing like situations. So tell us a couple of those stories.
Well, okay, I'll start with the Mexico story, which was it was just quite funny. We were on a family vacation and we met with another family. One of the men there, like he repairs bikes, and he's gone down to the States and worked with Jesse James, and he's like a dude's dude, right? And he had this crazy, I saw him in the pool. I'm like, what is going on with you? He said, oh, I've Percocet and I'm like, what? And he's like, oh, we went to go and get some more drugs because my dentist didn't give me enough, and I had this dental pain, and I was like in so much pain, and I can't even whatever, and I can't handle this. And I said, well, I kind of do some energetic work. And my husband's like, yeah, she's crazy and her stomach goes nuts and it does this weird sound. And it's like, I gotta explain it, but like she fixed my shoulder and I couldn't lift it up and I couldn't do anything. And she actually, so he's, pumping my tires. So he gets, this other gentleman is like, okay, okay, let's wait a couple hours till this wears off. I'm like, wait till the drugs wear off because I don't really want that to cloud anything. And so poolside, I just kind of sat with my hands there for 5-10 minutes. And the next day he's like, I don't even know what you've done. And I've kept in contact with his mother-in-law and sister-in-law, and they call me the Witch of the West because they live out east in Canada. And they're like, he never went back to the dentist, even though I told him, I said, when you get home, you need to go back to the dentist. But his pain never resurfaced. And he had like a root canal, I think, a week before this trip, and he was in crazy pain. So that's one instance. But, in person, I deal predominantly with women. I would say the majority of the clients that I have are women. Some of them with chronic pain, some of them going through heavy emotional life experiences and needing assistance to maybe find their footing to navigate through. I've worked with some men. Usually they just want someone to talk to them and in a trusting and open way. And so I find the men just really need a space, like they're looking for a space where they can talk. And I know I have one gentleman that has come a couple of times and he said, I've spent countless hours and dollars going to a psychologist who just sits there and checks whatever off and then tells me whatever. But he said, the way you listen and the way you engage in the dialogue is more powerful for me than any appointment that I've ever had in that capacity. So I think, our men are broken too, and they're looking for a space to heal in which they're comfortable too. So that's something that I've noticed about the men that I do work with are, emotionally in a place where they need that support, but don't know where to look for that support as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. So it's almost like your healing for the men is really just holding a space for them to just be with whatever's happening in their space. That's Absolutely. So powerful because we don't have that for men, not in our Western society. There's really nothing.
It's either you man up or, you take a drug and you're very quiet about it, or you can go to the psychologist or psychiatrist and you're very quiet and hushed up about that. And you just kind of, you're expected to man up. But it's not working. It's not serving our masculine either. And they're just looking for that space to be okay and feel that they're in a trusted space.
Yeah, absolutely. So your husband must like have the best situation. He must be able to process things so easily. I need to send my husband to you.
I mean, he's a really dude. Like, he's a firefighter. He plays hockey. He's like, but you know, he's shifting in his own way because I've shifted so much in the last 2 years, and you know, not without resistance. He was like, what is this? You know, it's challenging when all of a sudden this person you've been with for 18 years steps into her power. But, you know, every shift that we have, he shifts a little bit more. This morning, he worked last night, and this morning he was laying on the couch and I touched his foot and my stomach started going erratic. And I'm like, it was a rough night, right? Last night, right? He's like, yeah, you know, and he doesn't talk a lot about that part of his work. That has been his way of managing his work and what he sees and does. But
the heavy stuff.
Yeah, but it's there, and I help him more, maybe in more subtle ways, because that's where he is and his ability to process, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Well, and I think men process things differently than women too. Like we like to talk more and like understand it, right? And men are kind of like, they need a different process. So that makes a lot of sense. So that brings me back to when you were talking about earlier, the stomach issues that you got as a kid. And then now I remember you telling me that you get these grumblings when you start to do healing work. That's kind of incredible.
Yeah, it is. Like, I think about, so when I was a child, I would always have these tummy problems and I would throw up all the time, but it wasn't like I never had the flu, but I was throwing up all the time. And then even teaching, so 13 years of teaching, and my old colleagues would say the same. They'd be like, what the hell, Susanne? Like, why are you puking all the time? You get the flu all the time. But it was never the flu. It was like one night of throwing up, and then my body needed like a day or two to recover, and then I was back. It was all energy. It was all energy because I had been processing for my students, my colleagues, the parents of these kids for so long, for everyone, for so long. And my body just did not know what to do with it. And that's how to me, there's not a question. This is just what was happening. And my daughter, who is 7, when she was 2, she started in this barfing pattern with me, and it would be very much the same.
Wow.
And this summer, when we had to say goodbye to our dog Loki, he had a disease and he was not well, and we had to say goodbye. And my husband and I were taking turns explaining to her that morning, and we were both quite upset. And I remember I left to either brush my teeth or put my contacts in, and I came back down and she had been talking to my husband, and then he got up and left, and I heard the same gurgling sounds, and I looked at her and she looked at me and she said, Mom, that's not your tummy, that's my tummy. She said, the same thing happens for me, but it's just for the people I love. And I said, okay, well, for now. But okay.
And that chills. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so she's very gifted as well, which is amazing. And I recognize now that part of the reason she chose me was for me to help her navigate through that. So
absolutely. And like, how amazing to have a mother, like kind of show you the ropes of what this is. How do you process it so you don't end up getting sick and cancer and all of these things that can happen if you don't know what to do with it, right?
Absolutely. Let's hope she doesn't hate me in the teenage years. I mean, she will for like pockets of time, but that's to be expected.
I feel like it's a rite of passage to hate your parents when you're a teenager, but I don't know. I do feel like the next generation of humanity is coming in with like a lot more consciousness and choosing parents who have more of an ability to understand the unseen and to help, navigate that. Because I mean, oh my gosh, I would have wished that I had that growing up. Like, I had so many psychic issues and so many psychic experiences, and I never had anybody to explain it to me. And it took my whole life as well to figure out what the heck I was seeing. And then on top of that, I had a mother who was literally crazy. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm just crazy like her, it's so insane. But like, I'm so excited for your daughter and for you, because what an amazing experience to be able to share. I mean, it is literally like the witchiest thing ever, right? Like the passing on of the gifts and the tools through the maternal lineage is just like amazing.
It is. There's nothing, when I see those sparks, I'm like, oh, look at you. And, you know, and she already has her other gifts that are different than mine. And it's beautiful.
Wow.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
That's so cool. So, you are in Canada near Edmonton, right?
Yep, just a suburb of Edmonton. So.
Okay, cool. And we were talking earlier, like I'm in San Diego, so a lot of like the woo-woo witchy stuff is very kind of accepted. It's almost like trendy here to be part of that movement. What is the culture in Canada like, and has it been difficult for you to sort of step into this space in your local community?
Well, I was saying we've got this beautiful meditation studio that opened up a few years ago. There's a lot of moon circles happening, and I feel it's quite a trendy thing to do. Whether there's a lot of background knowledge about it with everyone presenting I'm unsure. But to actually say the word witch is like, you know, a couple of times I've thrown it publicly out there, and I had a few people like, okay, I don't want any part of this, right? I'm like, I am not going to eat your children, and I'm not fornicating with the devil. Like let's just relax a little bit. But, you know, to me, there's no other embodiment. And I think it's part of what we went through last year together. It's like, okay, this is a heavy word, but like, think of what it actually entails. And really, you know, historically, it just meant wise woman.
Yeah. And I love the acronym, woman in total control of herself, because I literally think that is what it means to be a witch, somebody in her power, in her ability to be fully embodied, understand who she is, and to have intention and consciousness around everything that she does. You know, it's kind of one of the reasons why I started Witch in Womb, because I want to normalize, you know, the word witch. You're right. It's not we're dancing naked, worshiping the devil with like, you know, pentagrams and blood and like all of that stuff, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Look, I have a star over there, but you know.
Well, we have a little bit of that, baby. So that actually brings me to this next project that you have created just recently, the Mystic Sisters Sisterhood. Like, first of all, before we even get into that, I just want to like have a shout out to your Instagram, because all of your Instagram accounts are insane. They're so gorgeous. They're so inspiring. I mean, you are so beautiful, but the way that you capture like the essence of your energy and the witchy energy and then the sisterhood energy, like it's so beautiful. So anybody watching, I highly recommend just follow all of her accounts. I'll like put it on a slide or whatever so people can follow, but wow, like amazing.
I'm going to do a couple of like shout outs to that. So my web designer is like, I grew up in a teeny town of 700 people. There were 20 of us that carried on every grade, and she was in my graduating class, and she is my web designer. Wow. And she's a genius, web and branding. And then another great friend of mine does all the photos, and basically like with those both, I'm kind of the vision person of like, this is what I want, the essence. And so, you know, my friends that I collectively work with and the other Mystic Sisters, they're like, Kate, just go for it. Like, you have the vision. That's your strength, is like, how do we encompass and make this really come to life? So I have the vision, and the photographer brings it to life. Like, they're the other pieces to that. So yeah, they're wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so gorgeous. So please follow it. So that said, I want to move on to the Mystic Sisters stuff, because first of all, I've only recently learned how important it is to have local women that are on the same page with you, because we went through this coven experience that was online, and that opened me up to a whole new way of being in sisterhood that I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize this was a missing part of my life until I experienced it. And then after that, I was like, I need to have this around me. And so when I started seeking out women who were locally, that like just sort of up leveled the whole experience for me. So I like strongly believe in local sisterhood, like big time. So how did that happen for you, and how did Mystic Sisters come around?
Well, I would say maybe a year and a half or so ago, we started circling on every full moon, sometimes full and new moon, just together. And we would do rituals, and we would witness each other, and we would, hold space for everyone moving through emotion. And we kind of used it as like, it was a lifeline for some of us through very challenging times, challenging months, and it was a support that was so necessary and so real. And you get to a point in your life where you have a business, and you have work, and you have a partner, and you have family, and you have other obligations, and you just want your connections to be real and raw and pure, and where you can be vulnerable and you can be held. And like, we have a hell of fun. Like, we always have wine and snacks, and we laugh and we dance, and we and we cry, and we all of the things, right? And so it was just so necessary for all of our growth, and to feel held and supported. And they're just people that I couldn't imagine not having in my life. And we thought, how do we bring this larger, like really with the pure intention of where it comes from for all of us, and bring that into the greater community. And that's kind of where it started.
We need that more as women. We need those connections.
Absolutely. So, and just in that space where you feel okay to share without judgment, and that was the hugest thing, that you need this space to share and let go of what needs to be let go of without judgment, and to feel supported. So yeah.
What is it about? Like, how does somebody, if they want to get involved and have that kind of experience, tell us a little bit more about the Mystic Sister experience?
Well, we have several offerings. So we are doing monthly, either full or new moon circles that people can register for. We are also offering intuitive light worker training. Essentially, it's a 4-part series. You can sign up for one weekend or all of them, but part of it is just like a general understanding about energy and our chakra systems, and understanding. That's the first part. The second part is going into our Akasha, healing inner child. We have one of my sisters is doing a shamanism course right now, and so she navigates things a little bit differently, which is, we all have our own strengths that we bring to the table. So that's another part of it. The other part is, working with the lunar cycle and the seasons and the cosmos and the astrology, and how does that all fit together. And then the last part is the Reiki level 1 and 2, and also getting attuned to that. So that is our trainings, workshops. We've got a few, like there may be some flower essence workshops. There's an acupuncturist that's asked if she might be able to collaborate and do some esoteric acupuncture while we hold space for her to do that for people. And then we've got a couple of retreats. So we've got one planned for the summer solstice, and another one planned for the fall equinox, because they're just amazing energy times, and a way for women to celebrate and be in circle kind of all weekend, and do some of the peeling the layers back to getting closer to self, but also celebration and fun too.
Oh, that's so fun. I want to come to the solstice one. That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So my next question is, how can somebody work with you if they feel called, that they're maybe having an emotional struggle or a physical struggle happening in their life, or just kind of want to be in your juicy energy? How can they work with you?
Okay, well, if they are in the greater Edmonton area, of course, they can book to come see me in person. But I also offer distance sessions. So that's something where you had experienced a distance session. So essentially, I connect my energy to yours. The information comes to me very symbolically, and whichever way it does, I do an audio recording, I send it to the person, and we can message back and message after that. I've also added an offering of just conversations, phone conversations. So if someone wanted to FaceTime or Zoom with me or set up time, like a 30-minute or 60-minute, we can just talk as well. So if we do that, I might just balance your chakras really quickly before we connect, and then connect on the phone and talk. Or you can do a combination of a distance session and a phone session where you and I can actually just sit down and talk kind of face to face for 30, 60 minutes. And, you know, so an offering that I'm trying to bring more globally that as well, right? Because I think, you know, I've had a chance to work with yourself and some of our other sisters, you know, in the UK and in other places in the States. So
yeah, it's so amazing, because I think we're at a time energetically in our society that I like, you know, you think like, oh, a distance healing, that's not going to do anything like that. You can't connect on that level. And it's so not true. Like sometimes the most amazing healings happen at a distance for me. And your healing is probably the top of my examples, because it's literally 5 years of trauma just lifted off. Like it's just, I still don't believe it. You know, it's really crazy.
I don't either. I'm like, are you sure? Come on.
Did that happen? I can't tell. Oh, that's so cool. We're coming to the end of our time, and Susanne is going to pull a few cards for us so that we can seal this and we can kind of see her magic a little bit. So are you ready to do that for us?
Yeah, I'm going to stand up, and I'll just do a shout out to, can you see this? Like it's hard, is there a glare?
Yes.
Okay, so the Moonchild Tarot, Danielle Noel. I love this tarot deck. I've actually picked up, I don't know how many tarot decks, and this is the first one that I have actually like picked up, and I'm like, okay, this is the one that I want to work with. I have, I think, 4 others that I've tried to connect with, and yeah, so I'll just do a little pump out with that. The artistry is quite
Gorgeous.
beautiful. It's gorgeous. And so I'm actually going to stand, because I don't know if you're going to see my face in this. I can tilt this, but you may hear my tummy doing the thing it does, because that usually happens when I connect. So I'm just going to hold the cards for a minute.
Oh, I hear it.
And then it's going to be quiet, because it's like I'm on pressure. It's too much pressure. My tummy can't do it. Okay. All right. The 9 of Pentacles.
Gorgeous.
Which is gorgeous. And again, tarot is one that I am continuing to work with. So I'm going to find the actual meaning. Of course, I know that Pentacles is very earthbound. This woman is amazing. She's dancing, which to me looks like, you know, she's, yeah, just in pure embodiment of her body. So let's just see what it has to say. Let's see what it has to say, the guiding insight. Growth, comfort, pleasure, peace, and harmony. And blissful chapters in the life that make everything worthwhile. When we glean a sense of wisdom that comes as a result of working hard and reaping the rewards. There's a spiritual satisfaction in this card. It speaks of those grand milestones that stand out in life, one which you will recall with total clarity and nostalgia as the years go by. You have found your place in the universe and are radiating joy. Perhaps you will want to spend more time in nature with people you love. You are aware of the greater scope of your being and are ready to move on to the next phase of enlightenment. It is a time to enjoy life's simple pleasures.
Oh, you know what? That like actually just fully embodies the work that you do with your clients. Like if your main goal is to cultivate a greater sense of self, a greater sense of connection, that is the 9 of Pentacles, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's perfect.
I mean, the cards don't lie ever. Yeah, this one is, yeah, I don't see how it could be a more perfect card, to be quite honest.
It's you. It's you. It's your work.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much, Susanne, for just taking the time to tell us about your journey and help us understand your offerings a little bit better. Thank you for speaking with us. Like, I love you. I love seeing your beautiful face and connecting with you. So I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me. And it was honestly just a pleasure to spend the last hour chatting with you. And that's what it felt more like, is just to have a conversation.
No, big love to you too. Oh my gosh. So if anybody's watching and you want to have a little bit more connection with your sisterhood, please sign up for the Mystic Sister stuff. Hopefully they'll have online offerings in the future. I think you guys are going to. It just feels like that's the natural progression. I really feel like that. And then if you want to connect with Susanne, her website is down below and you can reach out to her. And then also please, please, please follow her on Instagram because you will not be disappointed. It's really amazing. So thank you. And I just want to say, anybody who hasn't joined the Witch and Womb Coven, please visit witchandwomb.com and subscribe because you get all sorts of free stuff. I send out videos every week and meditations and healings. So you don't want to miss that. And all these awesome Witches in the World interviews. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you guys, everybody, for joining, and we will see you next time. Bye, witches.